2 blue quills. C. 3 red pom-poms. VII. It's 9:30. VII. Good night. Judy. 2nd June. Dear Daddy Longlegs, you will never guess the nice thing that has happened. The McBrides have asked me to spend the summer at their camp in the Adirondacks. They belong to a sort of club on a lovely little lake in the middle of the woods. The different members have houses made of logs dotted about among the trees, and they go canoeing on the lake and take long walks through trails to other camps and have dances once a week in the clubhouse. Jimmy McBride is going to have a college friend visiting him part of the summer, so you see we shall have plenty of men to dance with. Wasn't it sweet of Mrs. McBride to ask me? It appears that she liked me when I was there for Christmas. Please excuse this being short. It isn't a real letter. It's just to let you know that I'm disposed of for the summer. Yours, in a very contented frame of mind, Judy. 5th June. Dear Daddy Longlegs, your secretary man has just written to me saying that Mr. Smith prefers that I should not accept Mrs. McBride's invitation, but should return to Lock Willow the same as last summer. Why, Daddy? You don't understand about it. Mrs. McBride does want me, really and truly. I'm not the least bit of trouble in the house. I'm a help. They don't take up many servants, and Sally and I can do lots of useful things. It's a fine chance for me to learn housekeeping. Every woman ought to understand it, and I only know asylum keeping. There aren't any girls our age at the camp, and Mrs. McBride wants me for a companion for Sally. We're planning to do a lot of reading together. We're going to read all of the books for next year's English and sociology. The professor said it would be a great help if we would get our reading finished in the summer, and it's so much easier to remember it if we read together and talk it over. Just to live in the same house with Sally's mother is an education. She's the most interesting, entertaining, companionable, charming woman in the world. She knows everything. Think how many summers I've spent with Mrs. Lippett, and how I'll appreciate the contrast. You needn't be afraid that I'll be crowding them, for their house is made of rubber. When they have a lot of company, they just sprinkle tents about in the woods and turn the boys outside. It's going to be such a nice, healthy summer, exercising out of doors every minute. Jimmy McBride is going to teach me how to ride horseback and paddle a canoe and how to shoot, and lots of things I ought to know. It's a kind of nice, jolly, carefree time that I've never had, and I think every girl deserves it at least once in her life. Of course I'll do exactly as you say, but please, please let me go, Daddy. I've never wanted anything so much. This isn't Jerusha Abbott, the future great author, writing to you. It's just Judy, a girl. 9th June. Mr. John Smith, Sir, yours of the 7th instant hand. In compliance with the instructions received through your secretary, I leave on Friday next to spend the summer at Lock Willow Farm. I hope always to remain Miss Jerusha Abbott. Lock Willow Farm, 3rd August. Dear Daddy Longlegs, it's been nearly 2 months since I wrote, which wasn't nice of me, I know. But I haven't loved you much this summer. You see, I'm being frank. You can't imagine how disappointed I was at having to give up the McBride's camp. Of course I know that you're my guardian and that I have to regard your wishes in all matters, but I couldn't see any reason. It was so distinctly the best thing that could have happened to me. If I had been Daddy and you had been Judy, I should have said, "Bless you, my child. Run along and have a good time. See lots of new people and learn lots of new things. Live out of doors and get strong and well and rested for a year of hard work." But not at all. Just a curt line from your secretary ordering me to Lock Willow. It's the impersonality of your commands that hurts my feelings. It seems as though if you felt the tiniest little bit for me the way I feel for you, you'd sometimes send me a message that you'd written with your own hand instead of those beastly typewritten secretary's notes. If there was the slightest hint that you cared, I'd do anything on earth to please you. I know that I was to write nice, long, detailed letters without ever expecting any answer. You're living up to your side of the bargain. I'm being educated, and I suppose you're thinking that I'm not living up to mine. But, Daddy, it's a hard bargain. It is really. I'm so awfully lonely. You're the only person I have to care for, and you are so shadowy. You're just an imaginary man that I've made up, and probably the real you isn't a bit like my imaginary you. But you did once, when I was ill in the infirmary, send me a message, and now, when I'm feeling awfully forgotten, I get out your card and read it over. I don't think I'm telling you at all what I started to say, which was this. Although my feelings are still hurt, for it's very humiliating to be picked up and moved about by an arbitrary, peremptory, unreasonable, omnipotent, invisible Providence, still, when a man has been as kind and generous and thoughtful as you've heretofore been towards me, I suppose he has a right to be arbitrary, peremptory, unreasonable, invisible Providence all he chooses, and so I'll forgive you and be cheerful again. But I still don't enjoy getting Sally's letters about the good times they're having at camp. However, we will draw a veil over that and begin again. I've been writing and writing this summer, 4 short stories finished and sent to 4 different magazines. So you see, I'm trying to be an author. I have a workroom fixed in a corner of the attic where Master Jervie used to have his rainy day playroom. It's in a cool, breezy corner with 2 dormer windows and shadowed by a maple tree with a family of red squirrels living in a hole. I'll write a nicer letter in a few days and tell you all the farm news. We need rain. Yours as ever, Judy. 10th August. Dear Daddy Longlegs, Sir, I address you from the second crotch in the willow tree by the pool in the pasture. There's a frog croaking underneath, a locust singing overhead, and 2 little devil-down heads darting up and down the trunk. I've been here for an hour. It's a very comfortable crotch, especially after being upholstered with 2 sofa cushions. I came up with a pen and tablet hoping to write an immortal short story, but I've been having a dreadful time with my heroine. I can't make her behave as I want her to behave, so I've abandoned her for the moment and am writing to you. Not much relief, though, for I can't make you behave as I want you to either. If you were in that dreadful New York, I wish I could send you some of this lovely, breezy, sunshiny outlook. The country is heaven after a week of rain. Speaking of heaven, do you remember Mr. Kellogg that I told you about last summer, the minister of the little white church at the Corners? Well, the poor old soul is dead, last winter of pneumonia. I went half a dozen times to hear him preach, and got very well acquainted with his theology. He believed to the end exactly the same things he started with. It seems to me that a man who can think straight along for 47 years without changing a single idea ought to be kept in a cabinet as a curiosity. I hope he's enjoying his harp and golden crown. He was so perfectly sure of finding them. There's a new young man, very consequential, in his place. The congregation is pretty dubious, especially the faction led by Deacon Cummings. It looks as though there was going to be an awful split in the church. We don't care for innovations in religion in this neighborhood. During our week of rain, I sat up in the attic and had an orgy of reading, Stevenson mostly. He himself is more entertaining than any of the characters in his books. I dare say he made himself into the kind of hero that would look well in print. Don't you think it was perfect of him to spend all the $10,000 his father left for a yacht and go sailing off to the South Seas? He lived up to his adventurous creed. If my father